Welcome back, musicians. I'm Mr. Bizey, and today we're going to talk about tuning your viola. It's such an important thing. Now, probably if you're in an orchestra class, you've handed your instrument to your teacher many times and they've tuned it. Now, there's a lot of teachers that will tune with their bow, and that's honestly the way you should do it. There are some teachers like me, when you have 50, 60, 70 kids in your class that you need to get tuned, and you're the only one there, you're going to tune a lot quicker. I tend to do quick tunes with my kids. I look at the instrument and basically it faces me, I pluck and tune it. It's a quick tune, it gets everybody pretty close in tune. But for really good tuning, especially if you're getting to middle school and high school, you need to learn how to tune your instrument really well yourself and not just quick tunes like that. I have intentionally untuned my instrument today so that we can really learn this. Now, in most orchestras, what would happen is the oboe player will play, this isn't a full orchestra, the oboe player will play an A, and that A is at 440 hertz, which is recognized as the Western A, if you will. If you get into Baroque music, some people will insist on using period-appropriate tunings, which go in all sorts of different directions. But for today, most of the world recognizes that the 440 hertz is A. Not everybody. I've had a viola teacher myself who once tuned about a half step high. It seemed like we were tuning to a B flat. I'd come from my high school classes and I'd go to my teacher and I'd have to tune my instrument up about half step every week. It was a little annoying, but he was a great teacher. I think his ear had gone up a little bit. And that's another thing. Today you have a lot of tuners. You can get free tuners on your phone. You can buy tuners. It's a lot easier to see it, to see how in tune you are, to help you go. When I was growing up, we didn't have all those fancy tuners. We learned to tune by ear. And I still tune by ear, and that's what I'm going to go off. So anyway, full orchestra, oboe plays the A. The concertmaster's signal to the oboe play the A, and then you listen. The concertmaster will play their A, then all the orchestra will play their A. Now when you tune, it's important, this is out of tune, I know. That's about a G sharp or like some cents short there. Anyway, so number one, it's good that you hold a long bow to tune and not like, I see a lot of kids who do that. The problem is you get different pressures on that, which will actually change the pitch slightly. You do a long bow, you can hear it better. You don't want to play it really loud. You want to be able to hear the A that's being played for you. That's the example. Now, I'm not going to have a drone going, but I have my violin here that is tuned correctly. That's an A. You can hear the difference, can't you? I'm going to pluck that again. I can hear that in my head, and I'm going to tune it. Now, most of you have fine tuners down here on all four strings. Most of the time you're going to use those to tune. Sometimes your strings go really out of tune and you need to use your pegs. Don't be afraid to use your pegs. Might you break a string at some point by turning the peg a little bit too much? Yes, that might happen. 99% of the time, if you turn your peg and the string breaks, that string needed to be replaced anyway. It was a dead string. Very rarely do you tune an instrument and it's a good string and the string breaks on that. Only if you twist it too much. And you shouldn't be twisting it too much. You should be just turning it ever so slightly. Just little tiny turns. And I'll show you that here in a minute. So I'm actually going to tune my A with the fine tuner down here. You notice on my instrument there's only one fine tuner and that's on the A string. The other three do not. And it's just the way you do when you have better strings. It works better just to have the one fine tuner on the highest string and everything else is with the pegs. All right, so let me go ahead and tune this. Move some of that A again. There's the A, and you can hear mine. Here it's flat, right? So let me see here. Still really flat. When you tune this, you tighten it, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, you know. It's clockwise for tightening it to make it go sharp. It's counterclockwise to make it go flat. Sounds pretty good right there. I like to check it again. It's a little tiny bit sharp. I'm going to go with that right there. For me, by myself, I'm not looking at a tuner to make sure it's 440 hertz. I'm going to tune this to myself. When you're with an orchestra, you're going to tune it to yourself. It doesn't mean you're going to be exactly 440 hertz as an orchestra, but you're going to be tuned together relatively to each other, and that's the way to go. So I have this A. Now, our strings are in fifths on the viola, and because that, a fifth sounds really good. Like when you hear a fifth with both notes played together, if you don't know what a fifth is, it's just playing your two strings together. But when it sounds, when you play them together and it's a perfect fifth, as it's called, it sounds really good. And I want you to listen to this, and you're going to hear when all of a sudden it just kind of comes together like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. It sounds pleasant. So I'm going to play the A and the D together. I'm going to use my peg here. Watch how much I also turn this peg, okay? You hear how it sounds really good together? If you listen closely, especially with the instrument underneath you, you're going to hear kind of a buzz, and all of a sudden that buzz gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and you really don't necessarily hear it as much, to where, I don't know, the way my brain works is I see kind of the wavelengths, and as it gets farther apart, like we get bigger wavelengths, and I don't want that. So that's just getting the D. And you notice how little I turn this peg? I'm not cranking it like you would on a guitar. It's just tiny little turns. Like, it just, I don't know, a tenth of a circle or even less, you know, a 20th of a circle. Just tiny, tiny little turns. Think of 5 degrees, 10 degrees around the circle. Let's go from D to G. Oh, I love this. This is great. You notice how my G, I get it in tune and it's slipping. I don't know anybody who's not encountered that. Sometimes you have to kind of press the peg in a little bit. Sometimes I kind of push it into my knee a little bit. You push it in so it's going to stay a little bit better. Sounds really good. Like I said, it just kind of comes together. Hopefully you're listening to that like, yeah, I get some, oh, that's off. Oh, no, that's off. And if you're not sure if it's sharp or flat, turn your peg one way or the other. You're going to tell if it goes sharp or flat. Because when it gets really close, sometimes it's hard to tell. But as you get further away, it gets a lot easier to tell. Then you know which way to go. Finally, we'll do G to C. Sounds good right there, doesn't it? And that's basic tuning. Now a couple things for you. Sometimes these pegs get really loose. You saw I had to press mine in to get it in there. And there's different things. Number one, just try that. Just try pressing it in. Most of the time that will work with a peg. Usually, like on this side, you can grab the scroll, press it in with your palm, and then turn it, and it'll work pretty well. For the other side, you know, you can, many times I'll like press it against my knee, whatever, something to kind of press that in. Sometimes I'll use both hands to like press this and push this in, that kind of thing. But sometimes even that won't work, and you can get different things from your local music store that just go in. There's lots of different products. Say, my pegs are too loose, I need something to help that out. And you might want to ask a teacher to help you to put this on the pegs, because you have to actually take the peg out, put something on it, but it will help it stay there. There's also times when your pegs get too stuck, where they don't want to turn at all. I've had kids bring those to me. I've literally had some really cheap violins given to me. And not only if you've listened to my violin stuff, I've told the story about tuning a violin. It was a really cheap violin. And the scroll broke off. Again, don't buy $100 instruments on eBay. They're no good. But I've had pegs break off a number of times. Many times, just cheaper instruments, even student instruments. The pegs are fairly cheap. And you put enough torque on them and they get kind of stuck in there, and you twist it and it just breaks off. Those pegs are cheap. They're cheap to replace. It's not a big deal. It's easy to get the pieces out too. So don't get so worried about that if that happens. But there are things to get that you can make your pegs looser too. Again, you can go to your music store or ask your teacher what's something to get that will help you to make your pegs looser. Like I said, there's a lot of products. I'm not going to recommend any specific one. So as tuning the viola, it's an extremely important thing. Don't always rely on your teacher to tune your instrument. Learn to tune your own instrument. It will really help you. So thank you for joining me today. I will have more videos in the future. I don't have any specifically planned right now, but I know I've got a couple ideas in my head to go as we go. And right now I'm recording this during the summer, but as I go through that school year, I remember like, aha, that's something I need to teach. And I'll go ahead and put a video up here as well. So you can stay tuned for those things. I hope these help you, just kind of give you that extra bit of practice, give you a little bit of extra push at home so that you can get better in your orchestra or with your private lessons. Thank you so much for joining me, and enjoy playing your instrument.